Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to today's Sotbet on this, the 2nd of July 2024. I hope you are well wherever you are tuning into this from. And today I would like to discuss something about, and matter that really shouldn't be that controversial, but some people think it is. And that is the upcoming elections, which is happening in a couple of days' time. Now, the United Kingdom has a system of government, which we have a king as a head of state, but the actual government itself is elected. It is people vote for their MPs in each different constituency, and those MPs are elected to the House of Commons. And whoever then becomes an MP will have a say in parliamentary discussions. And if they happen to be one of the MPs that is chosen to be part of the government, then they will also have a say in government and in what is actually decided going forward for the policies of the country in regards to the economy, in regards to the defense of the country, in regards to health and social, and even any kind of policy that the country as a whole is taking. Now, that's the system of government that people, well, I think its initial beginnings go back to Magna Carta, but it wasn't really for everybody back then. But, it's a system of government that's evolved in the United Kingdom over the past few hundred years. And that is the system of government that we have. And our parliament in Britain is known as the mother of parliaments, because a lot of parliaments around the world are actually based upon the Westminster system, or even if not entirely based upon it, certainly inspired to an extent. And that includes even the Senate and Congress in the United States, and also many parliaments in Commonwealth realms, and also in other countries as well. Now, there are always at this time of year some Muslims that will come up and they will say, but you can't vote in an election because in the Muslim system we should have a khilafah. Okay, well, I just want to deal with this issue because it is a misconception. What does khilafah mean? Basically, khilafah means a deputy or one who continues after whoever is there beforehand. So, if there is in the case, this particular case, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, and then he had his khilafahs and they followed after him. Or if you have a sultan and he has a khilafah, then, but it's a misunderstanding. Khilafah as a system of government is just one of the systems of government that Muslims have used. And it is the only, even within the Quran, there's shura is mentioned as a system of government, which is the system of government that the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu used. He called a council of probably significant people within the community that had influence, and he didn't make big decisions without consulting all of them. Well, please tell me, how is that really that different from the idea of a parliament or a council? We have councils on local levels as well. They're like small parliaments for your towns and cities. I mean, the only difference is we are electing those members of parliament. All that means is it's giving the ordinary people more say. So instead of let's say the king, let's say King Charles saying, I have a group of friends and I'm going to pick these people, and those people are going to be part of my parliament, which incidentally is how they used to do it going back hundreds of years ago. Britain introduced a system where it allowed every single person within the society to have a vote. And many other countries have followed suit. So this gives every single person within the society a small say in how their country is run. How is that un-Islamic? That is just giving people, it's just empowering people and giving people the ability to be able to engage in the political system should they wish to do so. And not only can people vote, but any ordinary person can also stand within those elections to be potentially elected, in this case to the UK Parliament, at other times to a council, and be one of those people who is making policy over which all manners of how the country is run. How is that un-Islamic? The argument used is that law only comes from God and parliamentarians make laws. Well, how else? How else are things going to work? Okay, so let's say hypothetically you just had um, you had this idealistic caliph, yeah. Okay, so what's the caliph going to do about road traffic? Bearing in mind that nowadays we have all sorts of new laws that many countries have brought in that actually police road traffic, make sure people are safe on the roads and can travel from A to B without being, robbed, or without crashing, or without, all sorts of bad things could happen if we didn't have that in place. How could, what would the caliph do about air travel? There was no aeroplanes back in the time of the Prophet Muhammad. So, of course, in that hypothetical system, the caliph would have to have advisors, would have to have some kind of a shura, and would have to decide what to do about these things and bring in legal experts, bring in other people, and probably essentially come up with systems that don't look that different from what we put in place here in the UK or in other countries around the world. So this is really a misconception and a misunderstanding, because, how else is a country supposed to function? Of course, whoever is in charge, whoever is the caliph, whoever is the king, whoever is the prime minister or president, and the people in their government have to decide on all manner of different things, including what laws are enacted within their country. Now, if they have a particular philosophical or religious influence, this may play upon that, because that is what is motivating them as a person. And if you have a group of people along similar lines like that in positions of power, no doubt that's going to play into it. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter, And the Quran itself mentions different systems of government. A whole surah of the Quran is called a shura, which is a parliament. And also kings are mentioned in the Quran. So, there's different systems of government, and, each community will decide for themselves, what kind of system of government they have. I mean, if we read about the old stories, from biblical times, which as Muslims we generally do accept, there was disputes amongst the children of Israel as to whether they should have judges or whether they should have kings. And they tried both at different times with varying results. And as Muslims, we have to accept that, because some of those people were prophets. So we have to acknowledge and accept that. And this is why, kings are mentioned within the Holy Quran, including obviously King David and King Solomon, who were prophets of God, as well as being kings. So let's put that to one side and look at what we should do when it comes to an election. Well, various people will be standing in your local area, in your constituency. And you have to look at the character of those people as individuals, and you also have to look at the parties which they represent and the policies which they represent. What are each of those people saying that they will do when they become an MP, and how credible are their claims? And who would you prefer to have representing you in the House of Commons? This is the decision that people will make in 2 days. Who would you prefer? Who would you want representing you and your community as a constituency? So who do you want as your MP? And also bearing in mind that each of these MPs belongs to a political party. So who do you want representing you as a political party, being whether they're in the government or whether they're in opposition. And to clarify, you have a government, it's the party that gets the most people, most MPs in parliament, and they will form the government. They will be the deciding party. But whoever else is in the House of Commons will be in opposition. You will have the bigger one, which will be the main opposition, and then you will have other little groups. So, if the Conservatives win, then you'd have Labour in opposition. They may be the main group, and then you'd have the other parties like the Liberal Democrats, the SNP, and all the others. And obviously, if the Labour win, then they will be the main party, and then in opposition, then you'd have the Conservatives and you'd have the Liberal Democrats and others. And should something remarkable happen and either Reform or the Liberal Democrats become the main party, then everybody else would be in opposition. The job of the opposition is to scrutinize the policies that the government makes, to question them, to challenge them if there is something which they feel needs challenging or they think something is wrong. And this is why we have those two sets of benches within the House of Commons and also within the House of Lords. And people are sitting opposite each other, and one side is presenting their policies, the other side is questioning and scrutinizing that. And if you have a good government and you have a good opposition, this is a very good system for making sure that whatever goes through government is properly tested before it is actually made into an act of parliament, which becomes the law of the land. And it's got to be a good thing to have more eyes on that rather than just in the hands of one person, because like I says, things will need changing, things will need adapting, and you need a good group of people there. So, what people need to decide is who they think will best represent them, will best represent their interests of them and their families and their community, and what party they would like to see in government. And the thing is, this should be something we decide on a very practical and pragmatic level. Some people bring too much religion into these things. Now, yes, I'm a Muslim chaplain. I'm the managing director of the Association of British Muslims, but some people do bring too much religion into things which are really universal. And they're not really things which religion should be getting involved in. Now, certainly, whoever is in government, they should defend the rights of everyone to live their lives freely and to practice whatever religion that they believe in, as long as they're not really causing problems. If they're normal Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, whatever, they should be free to practice their religion, not have any problems from that. And alhamdulillah, in the UK, we do have that system. But, if someone, for instance, let's say someone gets elected in and that person happens to be a Christian. So they become a Christian MP for Sparkbrook or something. They would have to represent all of the people of Sparkbrook in Parliament. Just because they happen to be a Christian doesn't mean that they should ignore the Hindu or Muslim or Sikh or atheist people in their constituency. They have to represent all of the people within their constituency, and if they have problems, try to resolve their problems within the remit of a member of parliament. And similarly, the case is if the MP happens to be a Muslim, happens to be a Hindu, happens to be a Sikh or an atheist or whoever. Similarly, if they happen to be straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, they have to represent the interests of everybody. That is the job of a member of parliament. So, and I say that because I have seen certain things that are cause for concern, where people do bring too much religion into this and say that that person is a Muslim MP or that person is a Christian MP or a Hindu MP. They may well be an MP who is a Christian or who is a Muslim or who is a Hindu, but they are a British member of parliament. and they have to represent the citizens in their constituency and work for everyone in their constituency. The same is also true when it comes to council elections. If someone happens to be elected in and they happen to be a Muslim who is elected in as a councillor, or a Sikh who's elected in as a councillor, in most of what they do, their Muslimness, Christianness, Sikhness, or Hinduness, or whatever shouldn't really figure too much into that. Otherwise, this is where you end up with injustice. And we should be ensuring that we are treating everyone fairly. So this is also something to look for when you are selecting the person that you decide to vote for, if you haven't already sent off a postal vote in this election. So I hope that gives you some pause for thought and an injection of some common sense from a Muslim perspective, inshallah. And may Allah bless you all. May Allah grant that we do get good government, and may Allah bless everyone within our country. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.